The strange thing about losing someone you love is that it rarely happens all at once. It begins quietly, in ways that are easy to excuse. A missed phone call, a late reply, a promise to visit that gets pushed to next weekend, then the one after that. That is how it started with my son. Not with anger, not with some terrible fight. Just distance, so small at first I almost felt silly noticing it. My name is Carol, and I was 64 when I admitted to myself that my son was slipping out of my life. He lived only 40 minutes away, but somehow he felt farther than ever. At first I told myself he was busy, adjusting to married life, building something new. But deep down, I knew something had changed. Silence had entered where love used to live so easily. I raised my son Adam, mostly on my own. His father left when Adam was 9, and from that day on, it was just the two of us trying to build a life that still felt whole. I worked long hours, stretched every dollar, and learned how to carry fear quietly so he would not feel it. But Adam made so much of that struggle worth it. He was a gentle boy, the kind who noticed when I was tired and brought me a blanket without being asked. He still hugged me in public when he was a teenager. He called from college just to ask how long chicken should stay in the oven. We were close in a steady, ordinary way that felt unbreakable. I never thought he owed me anything. But I did believe that the love we had built over all those years would stay alive, even after he became a man. When Adam married Melissa, I truly tried to be happy for him. And I was happy, at least at first. She was polished, smart, confident, the kind of woman who always seemed composed. At the wedding, I smiled through my tears and held him during our mother-son dance while he whispered, "Love you, Mom." I believed him. I believed marriage would change his life, but not erase my place in it. The shift came later, in small things no one else would have noticed. Calls got shorter. Visits felt rushed. Holidays became complicated. I started hearing about parts of his life after they had already happened. New traditions formed somewhere else, in rooms where I no longer belonged. Nothing dramatic happened. That was what made it so hard to explain. There was no one moment I could point to, just the slow feeling of being moved outward, inch by inch. Sundays used to belong to us. Adam would call in the afternoon or evening, and we would talk about everything and nothing: work, recipes, errands, jokes, little frustrations. It was never grand, but it was steady. Then the calls started changing. One Sunday passed with no call at all. The next week he called, but only for a few minutes. "Hey, Mom, how are you?" "Good, honey, how are you?" "Busy." "How's work?" "Fine." "How's Melissa?" "She's good." "Love you." "Love you too. Gotta run." That became the pattern. Quick calls, delayed replies, distracted conversations that felt more like obligations than connection. After we hung up, I would stare at my phone longer than I want to admit. There is something humiliating about missing someone who is still alive, still nearby, and still technically loving you, but no longer making room for you. I think mothers feel loss most sharply during holidays, not because we need grand gestures, but because holidays are built from memory. One Christmas morning, I saw a photo online before I had heard from Adam. He and Melissa were at her parents' house in matching pajamas, smiling in front of a fireplace. The caption said, "Our favorite holiday tradition." I stared at those words for a long time. For 26 years, he had spent Christmas morning with me. Cinnamon rolls, sleepy smiles, wrapping paper on the floor, and now his favorite tradition belonged to another house, another family, another life. I tried not to take it personally. I told myself this was normal, that married people make new routines. But grief often enters through small things: a caption, an empty chair, a meal cooked for fewer people than before. I was not grieving his death. I was grieving my disappearance from moments that used to feel like mine too. The moment that truly broke something in me happened on my birthday. Adam had promised he would stop by after dinner. "Nothing long," he said, "but we'll come by." I baked a lemon cake anyway. I set out 3 plates. I changed my blouse twice. I put on lipstick, even though no one notices those things the way women hope they will. 7 o'clock came and went, then 8. At 8:30, my phone buzzed. "Sorry, Mom, something came up. Rain check?" That was all. No call, no explanation, just 6 words and a question mark. I sat there staring at the screen while the cake cooled in the kitchen and the extra plate stayed untouched on the table. Later, I cried while washing dishes that no one had used. What hurt was not only that he cancelled. It was how easy it seemed for him to assume I would still be waiting there. A few weeks later, I asked Adam to come over alone. No Melissa, no distractions, just him. I made coffee, though neither of us drank it. Then I asked the question I had been carrying for months. "Did I do something to lose you?" He looked down before answering. "No, Mom. But Melissa feels like you don't always respect boundaries, and sometimes I feel guilty after I talk to you, like I'm still responsible for your happiness." I remember going very still when he said that. I wanted to argue. I wanted to remind him how hard I had tried not to ask for too much. But beneath the shock was something worse than anger, humiliation, because I realized my love, the same love that had raised him, was now being felt as pressure. I had not become cruel. I had simply become inconvenient to a life that no longer centered me. After that conversation, I stopped calling first. I wanted to protect what little dignity I had left. Days passed, then weeks. And then, after nearly a month of silence, my phone buzzed with a message from Adam. For one foolish second, my heart lifted. Then I read it. "Do you still have my birth certificate? I need it for some paperwork." I actually laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly painful. My son had not called to ask how I was. He had not apologized for the distance. He had not checked in after our difficult conversation. He reached for me because he needed a document. I found the certificate, took a photo, and sent it to him. He replied, "Thanks." Just that. In that moment, I felt useful, but not loved. Like I had gone from being his mother to being a drawer he opened only when he needed something from the past. Letting go did not happen in one brave moment. It happened in small choices. I stopped leaving Sunday evenings open just in case he called. I stopped cooking extra on holidays out of hope disguised as practicality. I stopped rereading old messages when I felt lonely. Instead, I began rebuilding my life in the spaces where he used to be. I joined a walking group at church. I volunteered at the library, reading to children. I planted roses in the backyard and found comfort in tending to something that still responded to care. One day, I found an old voicemail from Adam laughing about locking his keys in the car. I listened, cried for a few minutes, and then deleted it. Not out of anger, out of mercy. Some memories become altars if you kneel at them too long. Letting go did not mean I loved him less. It meant I could not keep abandoning myself. I still love my son. I imagine I always will. That is the difficult truth about motherhood. Even when a child has hurt you, some part of your heart still listens for their footsteps. But love is no longer the same thing as waiting without limit. I do not sit by the phone the way I used to. I do not invent excuses for his absence. I do not measure my worth by whether I am remembered, invited, or included. If he comes back one day with honesty, the door will not be locked. But I no longer stand in the doorway hoping. There is peace in that, even if it is a lonely peace sometimes. And if you are listening because you know what it means to be quietly abandoned by someone you once gave everything to, hear me carefully. You are allowed to grieve that. And you are allowed to come back to yourself. Sometimes that is the real second chance. If this story touched you, subscribe to Second Half Stories for more emotional stories about heartbreak, truth, resilience, and second chances.